I am Homo sapiens. Around 440 million years ago, at the end of the Ordovician period, Earth experienced an environmental change marked by a sudden drop in temperature, leading to a major extinction event. This extinction wiped out 85% of the species that existed at the time, including marine life and newly emerging plant species on land. However, the history of life on Earth has shown us that despite natural disasters, environmental changes, and challenges, life has always adapted and transformed to survive in new forms. After this massive extinction, life on Earth once again flourished, giving rise to new, diverse, and more advanced forms of life. The Silurian period is a geological era that lasted from approximately 443.8 million to 419.2 million years ago. From a geological perspective, the Silurian period witnessed events like the collision of continents and changes in the size of oceans. During this era, Laurentia, which is part of present-day North America, and Baltica, part of present-day Europe, moved closer and eventually collided to form a large continent. This process led to the formation of the Silurian Mountains. The climate of the Silurian period was primarily warm and stable. This era also saw the melting of glaciers and a rise in sea levels, which resulted in the expansion of shallow marine ecosystems along the coastlines. The development of plants during the Silurian period marks a significant milestone in the history of terrestrial life. During this era, plants began to establish a strong presence on land, transitioning from their origins in the sea. Although these plants were simpler compared to the complex and large plants we see today, they played a crucial role. At the beginning of this period, plants from the bryophyte group were primarily small, non-vascular plants. They mostly grew in moist and marshy areas where they had direct access to water. These were simple vascular plants that did not have true roots or leaves, but had basic stems that branched out. Rhynia and Cooksonia were examples of such plants. These are considered some of the earliest plants of the period, with Cooksonia often recognized as the first vascular plant. By the end of the Silurian period, plants began to develop vascular tissue, which helps transport water and nutrients within the plant, enabling them to spread more efficiently on land. During this time, plants developed small thread-like structures known as rhizoids, which function similarly to roots in Silurian plants. These rhizoids helped anchor the plants in the soil and absorb water and nutrients. Early vascular plants began to develop structures like xylem and phloem, which are crucial for the transportation of water and nutrients. Silurian plants reproduced by producing spores. These spores would spread through air or water and generate new plants. Since seeds had not yet evolved, spores were the primary means of reproduction during this time. These early terrestrial plants began the process of absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and producing oxygen. This increased the oxygen levels in the atmosphere and improved environmental conditions, creating a favorable environment for the development of more complex plants and animals. The significance of Silurian plants lies in the fact that they laid the foundation for terrestrial life. Without them, the evolution of life on land would not have been possible. These plants initiated the process of soil formation on land and began the cycling of nutrients within ecosystems. Without these early plants, Earth's current ecosystem and the life forms we know today would not exist. In this era, the development of living organisms was primarily concentrated in the oceans, and marine life became quite diverse. Jawed fish evolved during this period, later becoming the dominant predators in both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. During this time, skeletonless fish, ostracoderms, also evolved, which were among the earliest vertebrates. Acanthodians, also known as spiny sharks, were another prominent fish of that time. Although they were not closely related to sharks, their spiny fins helped protect them from predators. Acanthodians were small jawless fish that primarily fed by sucking in plankton and small organisms and lived in shallow marine areas. In the Silurian period, placoderms were the dominant jawed fish, characterized by a bony armor covering the front part of their bodies. These fish varied in size, with some being small and others massive. They evolved as the top predators of the sea. A subgroup of placoderms, the antiarchs, also emerged during the Silurian period, featuring more armor on the front part of their bodies and the development of bones in their fins. Bryozoans and brachiopods were common marine organisms during the Silurian period. Bryozoans lived in small colonies, forming structures similar to corals, while brachiopods were enclosed within bilaterally symmetrical shells. Both types of organisms were stationary on the seafloor and fed by filtering food particles from the water. Crinoids and other echinoderms. Crinoids, also known as sea lilies, were found in the shallow seas of the Silurian period. These organisms were attached to the seafloor and captured food from the water with their long, branching arms. Other echinoderms, such as starfish and brittle stars, also existed during this period, either hunting on the seafloor or searching for food within the sediment. Graptolites were small marine organisms of the Silurian period that lived in colonies. They are now extinct. Their structures resembled small tubes that floated in the water and captured food. Graptolites are useful for dating geological layers. Arthropods. Arthropods also developed during the Silurian period, and they are the ancestors of modern crabs, insects, and spiders. Among the marine arthropods were the early eurypterids or sea scorpions, which are considered the largest and most dangerous predators of this era. Eurypterids could grow up to 2 meters in length and lived in shallow seas and estuaries. Some eurypterids gradually began to venture out of shallow waters and onto land. Other arthropods, such as mites and early insects, also developed on land. Although these early insects were small and simple, they were among the initial inhabitants of terrestrial ecosystems. The first signs of crustaceans on land also appeared during this period. All these organisms lived in moist environments. Fungi and algae also emerged on land during this era, later becoming crucial components of ecosystems. The evolution of organisms during the Silurian period paved the way for more complex and diverse life forms in subsequent eras. By studying the Silurian period, we can understand how today's organisms evolved from early life forms through complex processes of development.